First off, we are gonna start with the alphabetical order, and our first subclass is Urban Vagabond. It's a barbarian subclass, which basically essentially strikes fear to its enemies' hearts by raging.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I really want to see in a barbarian is, the Dragonborn shouts and all that, just inflicting fear on their enemies as they go to completely mad over a group of their foes, all bloodied and whatnot. That's one of their, core charisma of a barbarian, to just invoke their fear with sheer might.
And I think it is a good way to basically roleplay, and it gives you some tools when you're roleplaying. Essentially, in the higher levels, you can inspire your
party to be resistant to more damage.
And it basically lets you tank better, and there's some role-playing elements to it, and which is.
I mean, I kind of feel that this barbarian also has some bard built into it because of using fear and that type of engagement as a weapon.
And what it reads in the 6th level is. When you're raging, you yell and mocking words crush your spirits of your enemies. Okay, so basically this is vicious mockery built into
a barbarian.
And I think it's a good subclass. Maybe it's not the best among those here. But I think it's a solid B tier.
Yeah, I agree. B for barbarian. Now, my favorite one.
So we are gonna visit one of our favorite subclasses so far, which is the Shadow Actor.
Yep, I'm just gonna go right ahead and place this S tier. I love the concept.
Yes.
I love its cultural background that takes inspiration from the shadow acting that's been around the Mediterranean and probably Middle East and some parts of Asia for almost 2 millennia now. And I love how it combines that with actually a really fun bard subclass. Tell me, what does the Shadow Actor do?
It's basically the Mediterranean and Turkish culture meets Pokemon.
You're right.
In a way.
You're right.
So if you want to play as Ash Ketchum,
who controls shadows?
Yeah.
I mean, then you can also add in Yu-Gi-Oh with the Shadow Realm and whatnot.
Yes, exactly. So this was our inspiration. Jokes aside, it is a summoner type subclass.
Yes.
And Bard subclasses are usually concentrated on being artists or comedic reliefs, like we said in the last episode. But this one stands differently from the other subclasses, but it is also nice to have something in your arsenal that you can just come up with a over-glorified magic hand.
Oh yeah.
And you can materialize those, which is great. And you can tell a whole story about your maybe background and about the enemies that you fought beforehand with your party.
Just to give more details, how it mechanically works is, for the first feature of the Shadow Actor Bard is you create a shadow field, which is somewhat similar to Twilight Cleric. And then what's interesting is, at that field you start being able to control shadows within it with your hand movements and whatnot. At earlier levels, you use these hand movements and shadows to grapple enemies, and starting from there and going much further, you start being able to capture the shadows of fallen enemies to essentially use as your Pokemon. I think this is one of the best subclasses that they've ever written. It is so fun, and I think it really does deserve its place at S tier.
Yep, I think it's a solid S tier. Moving on. We have Reality Mender Cleric.
Oh, I mean, this is a tricky one because this is probably the most Historica Arcanum subclass out of every single one we have written so far in the last 3 years.
And it basically this subclass is it's a balancing tool to the spell rebound mechanic of
Let's
Historica Arcanum
explain
series.
spellbound first. Historic Arcanum takes place in the actual history, but when you place 10th level wizard in the actual history would go completely haywire. So one of the core tenets of the Historic Arcanum universe is this thing we call the spell rebound. Essentially, magic is extremely dangerous, and the more potent spells you cast, the reality pushes back, either killing the spellcaster or essentially damaging the society around them, so that the society itself would either collapse or just go after the spellcaster themselves. So essentially, spell rebound makes spells very dangerous in the role of Historic Arcanum. That's where the Reality Mender Cleric comes in.
Yeah, so when you're playing as a Reality Mender Cleric, you're gonna be more concentrating on dispelling magic or counterspelling the other spells that are gonna be probably dangerous into the fight, which also gonna be dangerous for the other team that you're fighting as well.
Yeah.
So since there is a huge threat about the spell rebound in the world of Historica Arcanum, the Reality Mender Cleric is gonna be a very useful subclass if you are running Historica Arcanum module as written. Because and if you're gonna use spell rebound in any of your homebrew settings, Reality Mender Cleric is a viable option.
Yeah, I mean, I can just imagine this one cleric trying to hold reality together as sides of, spellcasting wizards and warlocks just clash at each other. Yeah. I think this is a solid B tier. What do you think?
I think it's a B tier. Like,
right.
If you're not running a Historica Arcanum module, maybe it's a C tier.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not gonna be as useful, but since like counterspell and dispel magic
is very useful everywhere around. I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, like you can just concentrate on countering magic. It's gonna be like a hell of a useful spellcaster, but still, if you're using this as like a module that is written and like to be played
within Historica
Arcanum, it is B tier, but otherwise I can put it in C.
Yeah, me too. Now, a subclass that we haven't shown much love, and I don't like. It's one of the worst ones, I guess, in the City of Crescent. Druid, Circle of Nazar. I mean, I love the historical and cultural and mythological background of Circle of Nazar, but apart from that, like as a mechanic, this is a very situational one. Again, it fits very well into the City of Crescent, where you encounter a lot of Jinn, a lot of potential undead, but this just makes the subclass extremely situational, and I don't know if I would be able to place it higher than a C tier for now. Let's see what you think.
So I'm definitely on the same page with you. I think it's situational, but like for example, one of the features that you get in the second level is kinda useful. Like you can either use the Spare the Dying or Purifying Breath as a cantrip, which is gonna be a bonus action in the subclass, and I think it is really useful, but like
that's
you said,
low
it's
level. That's low level features.
It is situational, but I think it's a useful one. And I also like the theme as well. Like Ward of the Evil Eye is like a motif that you can encounter throughout the culture of the Mediterranean and like the Turkish mythology. But I think it is situational, and I guess I'm gonna place it in our C tier.
Yeah, I mean, I get that C tier. It's potentially D tier. But let's keep it a C and see if see how it goes after everything lands.
As you can see, we are trying to be as objective as possible.
Exactly. We don't give them any slack because we wrote them.
This is also like a good exercise for us, since it is a hard thing to be objective among the things that you wrote. But I think we are gonna do a great job. So moving on. Okay, so our new subclass is Fighter Janissary.
I mean, the cultural background of this is very obvious. Coming from City of Crescent, Janissary is the elite fighting force of the early to mid-stage Ottoman Empire. They are known to be very fierce and one of the keystones of the Ottoman conquests of all the way up till the 17th century.
I think it is a good subclass. Like my only argument would be it is getting weaker in the higher levels. I think it's pretty strong in the first levels, but also I like the idea that like we put enough love to firearms as well, because none of the fighter subclasses are doing that much justice to firearms.
Except the gunslinger, but I get what you mean.
But gunslinger is not like official.
So and on top of that, I really like the fact that this subclass is a purely martial subclass that takes everything that does everything really well. What you get is another fighting style that you can do a good combo with, like for instance 2-weapon fighting and let's say firearm if you want to do akimbo, pistols. And one of the hallmarks is like the Janissary slap, which allows you
Ottoman slap, please.
Ottoman slap, which allows you to stun your enemies at
seventh level.
Yeah, I mean, this does give an immense utility to the Janissary. So you just outright focusing down an opponent, either dealing heavy damage or just like stunning them and putting them out of commission for a turn.
Yeah, I think stunned is one of the
best
conditions that you would want.
Best conditions that you want to dish out. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think like it is a good subclass. Essentially, I think like it is a good subclass. Like I really like the 7th level feature Ottoman Slap, but I think it's not our best job. But I think it's a high C tier.
Yeah, I agree. It's like I would say it's a high C tier, potentially B tier, simply because like it does everything really well, but it doesn't have the standout aesthetic that, for instance, the Shadow Actor
But
has.
I think it needs to be higher than the Nazar cleric.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
Sorry.
let's give them a B. No, I mean, it's C plus.
Alright, yeah.
It's C plus. It's higher CTO.
Moving on.
Again, one of my favorite ones. I think right after the get-go, I say this one either has to land in an S tier or an A tier. Introduce.
We have the Whirling Dervish Monk.
Again, I think the
subclass.
cultural background of this is one of the most beautiful ones.
Yeah, like, and I also think that it is kind of nice to have a character that concentrates on the movement and concentrates
yes.
on the strategic part of the fight, like the combat. And I think when you're just new to D&D, you don't appreciate enough like how important the movement and the placements in the grid, like how important that is. So for the more veteran players, it is kind of important to understand how the composition works.
Yes, absolutely. And the Whirling Dervish Monk is a phenomenal tank where you can actually enter in between a lot of enemies and start tanking all the damages and start.
And you don't get opportunity attacks.
Yes, you don't get opportunity attacks, which allows you to move around very fastly. The enemies can't have advantages on attacking you, so this means you can enter places where you will be flanked and normally take a lot of damage. And even when you get attacked, you can do a lot of like parrying blows, which allows you to essentially do a mini shield spell on you in exchange for some ki.
Yeah.
And at the end of your journey, when you reach at the highest subclass feature of the monk, you get, I think it's called Existential Oneness, which gives you resistance to almost all kinds of damage, which essentially turns you into a very agile tank.
And I really like the role-playing part of it.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
You're a monk that can gracefully dance among your enemies, and you don't get hit.
Use a spinning dance, like ritual of the Whirling
Like
Dervishes.
as a dungeon master, I would like to see that played by a veteran player in a table. Like I would be excited to see that.
Absolutely. I'm not gonna say anything, but like I like the flavor text. It's because I kind of wrote it, but one hand looks upward, take wisdom from heaven, and one hand faces the ground and shared with earth. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it is great.
It's great. So, what tier do you place this guy?
A tier or S tier? I think it should be the highest A tier.
Yes, I agree. Plus, I really love the art.
Yeah, like monk is a kind of.
It was a challenge to create a monk for this.
Crescent. Yeah, definitely. And like it is not the favorite class among the others, by the community. But I really like monks, so I think we did them justice in this one.
Yes, I agree 100%.
Great.
Next one, of Silence Paladin. One of the most flavorful subclasses that we ever did, and one of the most flavorful subclasses I've ever seen for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
Like I think so as well. Like first off, like starting off, I think it is not a very beginner-friendly subclass.
No, it is not. What this does is like
to be fair, it is a hard subclass to play.
Yeah.
But I think it's
at the
really,
right hands, it is absolutely phenomenal.
I think it is really fun to play it. Like, I mean, let's be honest. Like, if you are purchasing a third-party Dungeons and Dragons book, the chances are you're
only a veteran.
Yeah, you are like far deep in this hobby. Like, I mean, thank you so much for doing it. But the chances are you are one of the people that like plays Dungeons and Dragons like
really
religiously,
seriously,
religiously,
like us.
And then, so I think the Oath of Silence Paladin is a paladin that makes you think outside of the box and like gives you chances to play with like you never did before. So you can't speak in this one.
Yes, I mean, the main gimmick of the subclass is you forego all speech and you use telepathic visions to communicate. It's like playing Dixit with your
this is a whole nother level of role playing.
Yes,
so, like,
exactly.
You basically make them see visions instead of speaking.
Yeah,
which can be really dramatic, to be honest. Like if you can come up with great concepts with this one.
Yeah,
and I also think that it is like silence is one of my favorite spells in D&D. Like
me too.
I really like the needing the verbal component to like complete a spell, and silence is a key feature to use with the Oath of Silence Paladin. So it can also give you advantage on like stealth rolls and stuff. Instead of like doing more damage, basically. But you can also make a creature shut up, which is also important. Which is an also important feature in this one, but also you also get all the paladin features that you get in a normal subclass. So you are still a great tank, you are still a great damage dealer, but you also have this very original way of role playing. I think it's an S tier.
Yeah, I agree so. And like one of the best features of this is actually granting you a way of actually silencing heavy armor, which kind of makes sense if you want to, for instance, multi-class as a rogue and a paladin at the same time, so you can actually use your
maxing again. Come on,
min-maxing stealth with this subclass. Again, I also really like the art. This is a solid S tier.
Yeah, this is an S tier.
Moving on.
I think we have.
Speaking of rogues,
we have Secret Service Rogue.
I think this rogue fits very well into the world of Historica Arcanum, the city of Crescent specifically, because the secret services are just beginning to take shape at the second half of the 19th century, which fits very well into the setting. But what do you think of this as a subclass?
I think this one is kind of cool because I'm not gonna place it really high, but
me neither. But it's a good one.
It's a good one.
All the rogues are
all the rogues are like like most of the rogue subclasses and most of the cliches about rogues are they have been raised in the streets. They raised in very harsh conditions.
Their hoods up. They don't speak that much. They're the cool emo kids of the party.
I really like the idea that you can have a rogue who had a really intense training by the government,
like a James Bond kind of guy, right?
So to be fair, I think James Bond would be like a rogue class as well. But like when you think of the modern interpretations of the rogues, I think the Secret Service rogue would be like a great character. So I really like the, for example, the repost feature. Because when you're trained,
when you're trained, in a perfect way to become the perfect weapon for a government.
You can see those openings to strike, and I really like the idea that you don't need to have a background. You can
that's what I was gonna say. Like one of the gimmicks of the subclass is that you're actually a chameleon that can change backgrounds as you see fit. With the adventure. I think backgrounds are a phenomenal feature of the D&D 5th edition that is extremely underutilized. You just use them to get some early skill proficiencies and then they're done with it. But I think if they're used properly, they can be very, very powerful. Like this Secret Service rogue is this guy who can just go in, either act as a member of law enforcement, act as a local hero or a guild artisan, and just get soft and social benefits from being that. I like this guy.
And I also like that you can use your intelligence modifier for your perception skills instead of wisdom. I think it makes it makes so much sense for a Secret Service rogue.
Absolutely.
Where do you place the rogue?
High B tier.
I think it's fair to place it in high B tier. I think it is nice to have like a trained rogue instead of a kid who raised on the streets.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's quite flavorful. It fits the world of Historica Arcanum, and I think given to a veteran player, I think a subclass that can actually change backgrounds at will is super fun and super useful.
And moving on from the Secret Service rogue, we have one of our fan favorites.
Yes, this is a fan favorite, and
we have the Sorcerer subclass, Gym Possessed.
Let's start with the most important aspect. This is what we call twin subclass. This is one of the twins of what we call twin subclasses. So Sorcerer Jinn Possessed and Warlock Jinn Master, they can actually change subclasses depending on narrative or mechanical shifts within a campaign, and that is, I think, one of our most fun additions to the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
And I think it is a really nice idea, but besides that, I think it is nice to have a sorcerer subclass who have really justified source of their magic.
So exactly, the source of their magic. I mean, because the core of the Sorcerer Jinn Possessed, you are not actually the person you possess. you are the jinn within that person who doesn't know much about the world but have immense potential of causing havoc. And at the same time, you are actually trying to wrestle control of this mortal vessel. So you have to pick between if you want to, you know, allow the body to survive and, you know, lower your powers as a jinn, or if you want to just take over and use the body as a vessel and move on when you're ready to pick a new victim. And one important thing, as I said, like in the mechanics of two subclasses, if the mortal actually manages to fight back against the jinn, they can switch the subclass, and you as a player can switch the subclass into a jinn master, which I think is absolutely fun. I would love to DM a player like that. I'd love to play a character like that. I think it would be absolutely powerful and absolutely impactful narrative-wise.
Yeah, and I also like the mechanics as well. Like from the 6th level, you have the feature called the Mortal Shell. You're gonna see how your relationship with the other part of your consciousness would go. You can like abandon the vessel that you've been playing with all time, and you are gonna maybe pick another victim, or you are gonna try to survive with the magical means.
I mean, and just imagine the power of being able to move from a body to another. Like that would give so much narrative potential to a player.
Definitely.
Or potentially an NPC that plays as a jinn possessed if you want to DM a character like
definitely.
that.
And I think it's also a viable option if you want to play like an evil party.
Absolutely.
It would be nice to have it. And from the 6th level, you can summon your like jinn to fight alongside you. I think it is also really fun. I just realized that we have a lot of summoner type features in this book. And like Sarp said, you can also go to like shift your subclass to a jinn master warlock, which is also like a really nice addition.
Let's cover this one and Jinn Master at the same time.
I think these are
these are very interconnected, right?
Yeah.
And Jinn Master is essentially the other side of the coin, the other side of the medallion, where you control your body, but you have a Jinn nestled within your consciousness, your body, and as it stands, you are its master. It can flip, but this is this Jinn Master Warlock is a bit more melee focused, damage focused warlock, where you can use the powers of the Jinn to enhance your spells, your attacks, and potentially your Eldritch Blast. So this is actually a way of presenting an alternative to the Hex Warlock also. Hexblade Warlock also.
I think they're both like phenomenal subclasses to play with. Like besides the mechanical issues, I think we are playing a role-playing game and we should concentrate on the role-playing part.
Exactly.
Like they are really connected to each other. They can work really well with each other, and I think it's gonna be a hell of a fun to play with.
And one part that I really like about the Jinn Master is your ability to actually use push the boundaries with your Jinn when you enter into combat. So the more you allow your Jinn to take control, the more the damage dice will accumulate that will cause psychic damage on you, which will, if put you unconscious, make you nestle with the Jinn. If it actually manages to take over, you turn into a Jinn possessed. If you, so you have to, play a very balance. If you have to play a balancing act to make sure that you're still in control of your body, even when you exploit the Jinn for your own means. I think these two subclasses definitely STs.
Yeah, I think so.
No two ways about
Easy
it.
S tier.
Easy STs. Alright, last two subclasses.
So we have another subclass for Warlock as well, because we are aware that this Jinn Master and Jinn Possessed thing is not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, it's a unique thing.
It's a unique thing. Like if you don't wanna wrestle with a Jinn for like your rest of your probably like your whole campaign, you can go to a really niche and like I think it's super cool subclass called the Warlock. It is a Warlock subclass called the Ancient Sage.
I think Ancient Sage is a great Historica Arcanum subclass also because we are all aware of, very important historical figures like, Socrates, Plato, and what this subclass allows you is to actually pick one of those historical characters as your warlock patron and draw wisdom and magical power from them. One thing that I really like about Historica Arcanum spell list is we have a spell list group called Mandated Sophists, which kinda hints, and I love it, that all import philosophers are also some kind of spell users and have created their own spells. And this warlock subclass has a lot of access to those spells, in addition to its own features. So the mechanics of Warlock Ancient Sage is actually very social. It allows you to actually communicate with your DM to find out very critical questions to ask NPCs or within interrogations using the wise question ability. And as levels go on, I think especially at the last one, 14 level, the embodiment feature allows you to actually draw the accumulated knowledge and experience all the deceased sages that you trace your warlock heritage to, and then just get a lot of really cool bonuses to your character. You gain resistance psychic damage. You can speak to any lingering spectral undead. You understand what every creature is saying, and in a world that is very dense with languages such as Historic Arcanum, this is a huge boon. And lastly, as an action, you can actually call forth the spirits of your long deceased patron, and then use that patron as a narrative tool, and also to answer questions or to give you a lot of cool gameplay abilities.
And speaking of the cliches in the other classes, I think it is a nice touch that you can play a warlock instead of playing a wizard and be curious about it.
Exactly.
Because the most of the warlock archetypes are based on these ambitious characters that are pursuing this power with any means necessary. But in this one, you are probably if you are gonna go with the suggested version of this subclass, you are gonna have this curious archetype, this scholar archetype character, which is I think it's great to have one of those options viable in a warlock subclass. I think it is great to have this instead of playing a wizard. You can go with a warlock and be happy with it instead of playing a wizard.
Absolutely. I think this is a solid B tier.
I think it's a B tier as well. Yeah.
Alright, and the penultimate subclass.
Okay, and for the last subclass we have the Stargazer Wizard.
Yep.
I think it is a really flavorful subclass, because I think it is nice to have this divination-ish wizard with this astronomical motifs built into it, and it has a really unique feature to play with.
I think flavor-wise, this is one of the best ones. I think being able to draw power from constellations and use it to give buffs to your allies is just phenomenal. And on top of that, I think as a wizard, this astrologian wizard that draws powers from horoscopes, it just makes sense. It just clicks in my mind.
And this ability to read the stars and make something up with it feels really unique. From the get-go in the second level, you have all these things to play with throughout the whole game.
Absolutely.
You have a very unique ability. I think as a player you would feel real special if you are playing this Stargazer Wizard, because it is an ability that no other subclasses would get. It is. There is a hell of options. There is a lot of options to play with, and from the 6th level, I guess you get to keep 3 of those anytime.
Yes. And I think one of the most fun parts about this is it is extremely versatile, right? So you can, depending on the situation, you can give different buffs to your allies. You can push up their constitution, you can push up their intelligence, you can add to their damages. So you just becomes this jack of all trades support character within the party. And I think this would pair really well with a wizard that just keeps picking utility spells. You would become extremely indispensable for your party, and you would be the fun of all the gaming tables.
And one quick change, you get to keep 3 of those in the 10th level. In the 6th level, you get one of these 3 abilities. Like you either go with the future like fortune telling, and finding your path, which is also a really useful thing to have in like more Wilderness campaigns.
Exactly. And again, all our
Celestial Omens, like these are all 3 like really good options, and I think it is a very unique subclass among those, and I think it's a A tier subclass.
Yes, definitely. This also, I really love the art. I think this fits really well into the A tier.
Yeah, and like it's my favorite art among those like miniatures. Yeah.
I mean, I think Shadow Vector takes the cake for that for me, but I think this is the end. We covered 12 subclasses.
Yeah, I'm pretty content with the like outcome here. I think
if you have City of Crescent, let us know what you guys think of the subclasses. If you have any, if you have any suggestions, any questions. Well, this is the book. Our very first Historica Arcanum, the book that kicked off this series and this company.
Like, we try to be objective as possible. Like, if you would do anything differently, please let us know.
Yes.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Yes. Thank you so much, guys. Now that we are kind of a semi-YouTubers, please don't forget to like, which helps us immensely. And as Doa said, see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.